Every year, hundreds of bills come out of the Idaho legislature on topics that will impact all our daily lives. We'll keep you up to date on what's happening at the Idaho State House all during the legislative session. Search Idaho Matters wherever you get your podcasts.
It's The Connector on a Thursday, March 27th. Good morning, I'm Troy Oppie. This morning, one Boise lawmaker says she feels her district was targeted by a bill restricting flag displays by government entities. Plus, lawmakers take aim at traffic cameras in the city of Boise. More than a month after a fatal crash in Twin Falls, an arrest has been made. And Highway 95 between Council and New Meadows should be fully repaired by about May, but drivers should prepare for the long road in the meantime. It's The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. Yesterday, we told you that Alex Adams, Idaho's Department of Health and Welfare Director for less than a year, is expected to leave the role after being nominated this week for a position within the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services. Idaho Health and Welfare yesterday says Adams is still leading the state agency for now. He awaits confirmation from the U.S. Senate to his federal role, and that confirmation has not been scheduled. A bill banning transgender people from using sex-segregated bathrooms and sleeping areas across many facilities in Idaho is close to becoming law. Here's James Dawson with more.
Dorm rooms, domestic violence shelters, and prisons are all covered under the bill. It would also ban anyone from entering a dorm room dedicated to the opposite sex. Republican Senator Tammy Nichols says she feels transgender women are forcing society to accept and accommodate them.
If women were not getting pushed against from biological men trying to invade our spaces, then we wouldn't have to be having these discussions.
Nichols says these private areas aren't safe to share with transgender women. Senate Democratic leader Melissa Wintrow says that's not true.
We're making it an issue. There's no problem. We're the ones that are overreacting and making an issue.
House lawmakers need to agree to technical amendments before it could reach the governor's desk. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Idaho Governor Brad Little has issued his first transmittal letter of the session. These letters are used to share the governor's thoughts on particular bills he signs or vetoes. Governor Little signed legislation approving the budget and pay raises for the state's Endowment Fund Investment Board, but publicly wrote to lawmakers he was concerned about pay raises between 10 and 33% for employees included in the budget who are already among the state's highest compensated workers. Quote, the legislature's approval of double-digit pay raises to only the highest-paid employees in state government sends the wrong message to our valuable state employees and the citizens we serve, unquote. Little signed the bill, which passed the House and Senate with 9 and 11 vote margins, respectively. GOP lawmakers want to limit the use of license plate readers. As our George Prentice reports, that could hit the brakes on Boise's plans to use the cameras across the city.
Last October, Boise announced a plan that could install readers at select stoplights to try to catch drivers who are speeding or running a red light.
So this would be the first of its kind in Idaho.
That's Bree Brush, Boise's transportation advisor. Now, fast forward, but no speeding, please, to this week when Senate Bill 1180 got a green light, and if it becomes law, the technology could not be used to charge drivers with infractions like speeding. Boise Councilman Jimmy Halliburton says the bill is a bad idea, saying Boise has a growing problem of accidents and fatalities.
It limits our law enforcement from being able to use some of this technology to actually address reckless driving that doesn't result in a crash.
GOP Senator Phil Hart supports the bill. He says Idaho shouldn't be using license plate readers at all.
And so if we have like citywide or countywide surveillance, I am worried that a widespread surveillance could be unconstitutional.
House Bill 1180 would also drop the requirement that vehicles have a front license plate if a car doesn't have a mounting bracket. The measure is expected to come to the full Senate before the end of this week. George Prentice, Boise State Public Radio News.
State senators are the latest to give their approval on a bill that tries to ban federal food benefit recipients from buying candy or soda. The proposal passed along mostly party lines yesterday. Republican Senator Ben Taves says the sugary foods and drinks contribute to America's ever-growing obesity problem.
The fact that a program meant to provide a nutritious diet to low-income households is failing at this basic task points to a serious failure in stewardship of taxpayer dollars.
Retailers and manufacturers oppose the idea, saying it'd be too complicated to implement and limits individual freedom. If signed into law by the governor, state health officials would request a waiver from the federal government to make the change. Several states have tried to implement similar bans in the past, but never received federal approval. A bill banning government agencies in the state from displaying unapproved flags is headed to the governor's desk. Senators passed House Bill 96 yesterday on a 20-11 margin. The bill restricts flag displays by any public entity to the U.S. flag or flags representing military, POW, MIA, local schools, tribes, or the flag of the local government. Democratic Senator Melissa Wintrow says the bill felt like it only targeted rainbow flags, like the flags that line Harrison Boulevard during Pride Month in a show of support for the LGBTQ community.
But these are my citizens, my district. This is my neighborhood that you're putting the clamps on. And I would say we need to do better to respect local control instead of smothering everyone with what you think should happen in the state.
Supporters say local governments should remain neutral, and allowing all flags could lead to bigger problems. The legislation previously passed the House with a veto-proof margin. Governor Little will have 5 days, not including Sunday, to sign, veto, or let the bill become law with no action once it reaches his desk, likely today. Police in Twin Falls have now charged an 18-year-old man in a late February crash which killed another driver and led to multiple injuries. Police say they've charged Edgar Venegas with multiple felony counts, including vehicular manslaughter, aggravated DUI, and injury to a child. Police say Venegas ran a stop sign February 22nd, hit another car, and fled the scene. The driver of the other car died after being airlifted to a Boise hospital. Police located Venegas and treated 4 other passengers who were in his car in the crash, but just this week announced the arrest and charges. The Auto Transportation Department says it will shut down Highway 95 between Council and New Meadows this Sunday night to begin permanent repairs to the road. The highway will be closed for about a month as pavement is removed and steel pilings are installed. This follows a landslide about 2 weeks ago, which undermined the highway near the Weezer River. Until Sunday night, flaggers continue to direct non-truck traffic through during daylight hours. Travelers should expect large commercial trucks and heavier traffic volumes on Highway 55 and potential bottlenecks at the Rainbow Bridge. While Highway 95 is closed, ITD says there are no viable local detours around the closure due to remaining snowpack, but they are working with local authorities to maintain emergency response capability and to potentially find a local detour route for local residents and workers. In eastern Oregon, Bureau of Land Management officials say Birch Creek Road on the Owyhee River has been washed out between the gate and Birch Creek Takeout. That's due to spring runoff. Only high-clearance all-wheel drive vehicles and extra caution are advised. Finally, this morning, the Bureau of Land Management has shut down its wild horse adoption incentive program. The move comes following a federal judge's ruling that the program violated environmental and administrative law. As the Mountain West News Bureau's Yvette Fernandez reports, the case also raised questions about the welfare of animals.
The Bureau offered $1,000 incentives to help people adopt burros and wild horses, but animal rights activists alleged that some animals were sent to slaughter. Judge William Martinez of the U.S. District Court in Colorado wrote that scenario was, quote, not hard to imagine, and that outcome, he added, was, quote, fairly traceable to the Bureau of Land Management actions. The American Wild Horse Conservation was the main petitioner in the suit. Spokesperson Amelia Perrin welcomed the ruling over the adoption program called AIP.
It's a horrible situation that the AIP created. It's really a disservice to the American people, and it's a disservice to the horses that we all care so much about.
The Bureau's website says the adoption program is currently paused and not available for new adopters. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Yvette Fernandez.
Thanks for listening to the Connector Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. Everything we do is because of listener funding. You are the strongest source of financial support for this publicly funded radio station, and we appreciate your help as we count down the days to our spring membership drive next week. Make a gift right now. Get us off to a great start. And support this podcast and the news you use day in, day out with a gift at boisestatepublicradio.org. And thanks. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our digital strategy manager is Lacey Daly. Our general manager is Tom Michael. We'll catch you again on a Friday tomorrow.